the breadth of insights that can be collected from an innovations mapping exercise. Innovations mapping, what we did essentially was to look for the purpose in developing the technology. Of course, that's paramount. The raison d'etre, right? The reason for being of any technology. Why on earth do we need to develop another rice variety if we already have hundreds of them in the market? And what it sought to address. So what is really the problem that cannot be addressed by varieties that came prior? And the key characteristics, of course, of the technology, the key issues in its uptake. So from here, we collected information on how to proceed with the project. We snowballed concepts, participants, and sites for inquiry. So yes, snowballing can be applied in concepts, snowballing concepts, participants, and sites for inquiry. So just to walk you some of the findings here. So you've got institutional, political aspects, sociocultural aspects, socioeconomics, etc. Anyway, I'll be discussing them in the next slide. So the research was conducted in 9 provinces. So why these areas? These are the areas that came up in the innovations mapping exercise. Areas that the stakeholders said, all right, 160 is popular there, etc. So we followed through on those sites. So for Luzon, Nueva Ecija, Pangasinan, Tarlac, and Bulacan. Visayas, Samar and Leyte. Mindanao, Davao del Sur, Agusan del Sur, and Surigao del Sur. We wanted to do more, but of course, all projects have limitations, so we had to stop at some point when we reach information redundancy and of course the resources for the project. So for those of you who are not from rice, I guess this is a good context. This will provide good context. If you ask plant breeders, why do we need to produce a lot of varieties? Like in the first sentence of the article that we published, more than 400 rice varieties in the Philippine market. The usual reasons that we get is that to provide suitable varieties for different agroecological environments. So it is true. Sometimes we're asked at PhilRice, what is that best variety that could be planted across the country? We'll plant that. I was like, hang on a minute, where are you from? Soil type, etc. So there's a series of questions that you need to ask because there's no silver bullet. There is no best variety that could be planted across the country. That's just how it is. To secure diversity for times of adversity, so at PhilRice we have a gene banks that can be used as parent materials for breeding new varieties. Like now we have heat-resistant rice, flood tolerant. Rice for flood-prone areas, and to serve different seeds for different needs. So here's a powerful quote. The environment is dynamic, and if breeding slows down, we might be overcome by emerging pests and other climate-related problems, threatening our rice production system that will affect our food security. The breeders must ensure genetic diversity is accounted for as a tool to sustain the gains made in rice production. Alrighty, so this is like the breeding framework. I'm not going to walk you through it. I'm showing you this just to show the steps, like for instance, that a rice variety has to go through before you eat that rice on your plate. Our interests here, of course, are the stakeholders. You have the seed growers, the farmers, the grain millers and retailers, and consumers. So let's now go to the results of this study. First, you know what? This is a powerful. We had to illustrate it in a map because one of the traders who happens to lead like a seed net at some point, or a big seed organization in the country, said that there was a time that the rest of the country prefers NSIC RC160, except Region 8 and Region 5, so national acceptance. And I'm going to explain to you why that is the case. For Region 8, they have preference for highly adaptable to climate because they say that it's wet and very wet. So they cannot perfect the drying. So of course the result of that is low buying price at some point. And because of climate issues, they have this local, like traditional variety, a pigmented variety. Pigmented is any variety of rice, colored rices like red rice and purple rice. These are pigmented varieties. In Region 5, This is what we call varietal loyalty. We're so loyal to, I think it was RC9. There's preferred variety in region 5. So and that I will also be speaking later on about social identity. And I don't know. We try to talk about that later on. Okay, is this working? Okay, working. Sure. Okay, in terms of income, what I'm trying to show here is this is data from our BDD, is Business Development Division of PhilRice. That's the unit that's in charge of selling seeds. So what I'm trying to show here is data from 2017 to 2021. So we've sold more than 1 million kg of NSIC RC160, and that's equivalent to 47.2 million pesos. The point that I'm driving at here is that it's money. It's money. You won't breed any variety that will not be sold. So the economic aspect here is kind of covered. So there's reason. And so the next question is why. So we'll get to that point in a minute. So here, so what did we find? 9 provinces. NSIC RC160 is everywhere. In restaurants, from fancy ones to carinderias. Some outlets of Jollibee, we're not able to verify which ones, and 7-Eleven are offering NSIC RC160. Just a joke. You know what? Whenever PhilRice staff members travel to Manila, so we pass by NLEX to eat, and our plant breeders will say, "This is probably NSIC RC160." Ah, no, RC18. Oh, is this the one that you bred? It's kind of the joke of plant breeders. The rice varieties that they bred are now available for us all to eat. In fact, I say here that I always joke that if we are asked at PhilRice for return on investment on R4D, NSIC RC160 will already speak for us all. It is a technology that have entered our homes, made its way to households, rich and poor. All right, so why is that the case? Why do people love NSIC RC160? Perception, of course. Okay, the market segments for the development. So I realized just now that this one has been invented. Yeah. So development, you've got there the government and the breeders. The production, you have the seed growers and farmers. Aggregation, you've got millers and traders. Marketing, consumers, food industry players. So these different market segments all agreed at some point that it's masarap. The components of masarap, for the non-Tagalog members of the audience. So masarap is basically delicious. So malambot, so it's soft. As said by stakeholders from the development and production and marketing, binabalikan, hinahanap. You can't get enough of it. So we've noticed that across all sectors, order ng extra rice, sapat na kahit walang ulam. So NSIC RC160, and that's the kind of a social identity component of NSIC RC160. It doesn't matter if we don't have anything that goes with rice, but rice has to be world class. It has to be delicious. And I'm going to talk more about that in the next few slides. Maganda. Oh, maganda. Mabrilyo is shiny, as told by stakeholders from the development, aggregation and processing, and marketing. Pwedeng panlaban sa imported. And I'm going to talk more about that. Usually when we talk of imported rice, we always look to them as kind of superior quality. But you know what? In our interview, they talk of Juhaku from Japan. You've got jasmine rice. NSIC RC160 is either somewhere higher than that or of the same level. So it's not inferior, and it's homegrown. It's bred by Filipino rice breeders in Maligaya. So pwedeng panlaban sa imported, and it's world class. Okay, so perceptions. Mahal. Mahal is good because that means it's going to give them more cash. In fact, in our data collection, it's 2 peso higher than the usual rice variety. So there are times, of course, you've read this in papers, that the price of rice is not very good. So if you planted 160, you're still okay. You're kind of okay because the price is relatively higher. Long grain is kind of gold standard. If it's long grain, it's it's in the market. Everyone's looking for it. May ganansya. There's profit if you plant NSIC RC160. good table rice, yeah? And in fact, it's the case that, when you ask farmers now, for household consumption, if they have 1 hectare, perhaps a fourth of that will be for NSIC RC160, and then the rest will be for other varieties like 222 or other varieties, essentially. But they need to secure ones to ensure that they will eat the first-class rice variety. Broken grains, yeah? These are some of the issues of NSIC RC160. Pest susceptible, yes, which is of course a problem in rice cultivation, and bumaba ang quality over the years. Now that's the problem. Over the years, the different stakeholders said that, hang on a minute, it's now being difficult to source NSIC RC160. Like for instance, the restaurant owners that we interviewed, I feel like, where is NSIC RC160? We're trying to build a brand. I mean, like the volume is not just there. So, okay. So let's try to compare, let's look at the market situation for NSIC RC160, because there are also comparable varieties in the market. You have NSIC RC218 SR. SR is a specialty rice known for its premium and good aroma, may amoy. NSIC RC436, which is soft. NSIC RC222, high yielding. It's a superstar. It's bred by Erie. NSIC RC300 and PSB RC18, favored in wet and very wet climates. Kalinayan or pink rice, premium. Jaguar and Juhaku, imported, consistent, good quality. But do you know the short message that I'd like to say? Despite the competition of these equally good varieties, our stakeholders, if available, would be looking for NSIC RC160 because the eating quality is unmatched. Remains to be the preferred varieties across stakeholders. In Nueva Ecija, it is referred to as the Nueva Ecija brand of rice. If you go to the governor's office, the token will be NSIC RC160. They're very proud of it. It's homegrown. And you know what? If you're not familiar with the market situation in rice, usually in the market, you will not see the numbers. There's no NSIC RC160, lala. But there are a lot of communities. You will either see Sinandoming, Denorado, etc. But there are a lot of communities that will still put 160 because it's popular, because of the eating quality. I hope you're not distracted by my Bicolano British accent. This is how it is. Okay pa ho ba kayo? Onting trivia lang. Okay, so which among these rice varieties won the Silver Award in the search for world's best rice last year? Ay, eto na pala siya, no? So, ayan, it's NSIC RC218. And the breeders, as I put here, they have the same principal breeders. Ito siguro yung trivia. Do you know who they are? Sila, Miss Telma Padolina and si Miss Emily Aracena. So, World's Silver Award tayo for World's Best Rice last year. You can search for that. And they are PhilRice varieties. PhilRice varieties, sorry. Okay. Let's now look at the rice stakeholder across actors and their interactions. The research gets exciting from this point. So we have the actor, the government. We look at the goals. The goals of the government, of course, is to ensure food security, right? We need to eat. People should not go hungry. Higher yield, of course, and better lives to the farmers. And for NSIC RC160, okay, high yield, comparatively, it's kind of okay. Breeders, although over time, there are a number of varieties that have already out-yielded NSIC RC160. 222, for instance, it's a superstar. It's a standard now when it comes to yield. Breeders keep up with emerging problems. The breeders will say, we need to keep up with emerging problems because it's, if there's blast is a disease if you're not in the rice world, or pest, for instance. NSIC RC160, high yield, there was resistance at some point at the past, although it's kind of, it's not very much as stakeholders have observed. The grain quality and eating quality. The seed growers, of course, to meet the farmers' demand, because they are the business people here. And of course, it's perfect for them. It's because it's preferred by many. It commands like 2 pesos higher than average rice variety. The farmers, of course, food consumption and good income. NSIC RC160, good eating quality, long shelf life, and premium price. Rice millers or traders, of course, are interested in building brand, help others maximize earnings. For NSIC RC160, the same as farmers, grain quality and eating quality. The consumers, the taste and the looks, they are paramount. Affordability, of course. And the food industry, of course, it's consistency. Of course, we know this, right? When we go to particular restaurants, we're looking for something else. Like I'm Bicolano, so whenever we go to, we return to Bicol, there's a restaurant there in Quezon. We're just looking for that particular rice. If it's not the same rice, there's a problem here. They probably changed the chef or whatever, the cook. So we know that. We know that. The problem is, it is understandable. It is understandable that those actors have different goals. But the problem is, those goals sometimes conflict with one another. Look at this. So the rice value chain players and their interactions. So this research unpacked a number of conflicts. First conflict, some millers feel that they are not included in the plans of the DA. Example, farm-to-market roads, the provision of resources, and millers, milling machines, for instance, because these are already being provided by the government. And they feel like, what will be the business case now for what they do if they're already giving away free of charge? So, and some millers feel that they are being demonized in the system. They're being referred to as the cartels, the hoarders of rice. And yet they feel like they also deliver in the value chain. So these are from their accounts. So, sorry. The next conflict is between the miller and the breeders. Stable source and volume versus more varieties. The millers would want, they say that we should only have 10 rice varieties. So we can focus on, we have enough space on growing, in growing those varieties so we can have the volume. But the breeders would say, we need to breed more. Because what if there's this shock every now and then, there's pest incidents, new disease, etc. So it's a delicate balancing act. That's what I'm trying to say. The next conflict would be between the government, the miller, and the traders. Branding versus new policies and varieties. So the traders are building brands, right? If you have a restaurant, you wanna market that this rice serves NSIC RC160. It tastes good, it's world class, whatever. But then the volume is not there. So come next day, no longer NSIC RC160. And then you have, to do this, they need volume, and then same reason for the government, because you need to produce more, to breed more. Alrighty, so here, you look at the farmer, the miller, and the trader. There's this issue of you kind of late harvesting for business gains at the expense of grain quality. So you harvest late, so it will command a higher price because it's dried. But the problem, however, is the grain becomes brittle. There are some grain quality issues. What do we call that? Recovery, milling recovery. There is also an issue of controlled release. It's kind of in the market. You control the release if the price is not good, and then you release if the price is good. The problem with that is those consumers who want to eat NSIC RC160 might not be available. And the food industry wanting to serve 160 might also have some issues with that. So, so there's this conundrum of issues when it comes to controlled release. Alrighty, so issues on procurement, delays, and matching of supply seed varieties to farmers' preferences. We know that for sure. And at some point, there is some muted preferences. At the national level now, there are some recommended varieties per region or per province. So there is a chance that, for instance, in province A, they probably want 160, but since it's not within the top 5 or so, then they will not receive it. So at some point, there is an unintended muted preference issue. Hence, the result is 160 becomes 16 sorry or 162 because of the insufficient certified seeds leading to reliance on untrustworthy sources. You know, when you, I'm pretty sure here in Laguna, for instance, you won't see 160. Perhaps it goes by different names, right? The rice variety goes with different names. So you won't see 160 anymore. And there is, it now becomes very difficult to ascertain the quality that you've been looking for 160. The summary is that there is a tug of war of interest. The innovation system is fraught with issues that stall the wider uptake of NSIC RC 160. It is not the case that the system is pulling it down, but the system is not letting it rise up, you know, to its potential, to its full potential. Would it not document case like it's kind of like there's crabs and like gotta pull the uptake of 160? No, it's not like that. But we are not able to optimize the uptake of this kind of excellent variety because of the tug of war of interest. And that's the importance of looking at the sociological aspect, social technical aspect of things when we do adoption studies, uptake studies. But the thing is, it's not as simple as fix this, fix that. It's not like that. It's not linear. There are inefficiencies in the system for sure. But if we simplify, who are we cutting off? If we simplify, who are we cutting off? Because these are stakeholders. And if you cut them off, someone's going to have to cry at some point. So seed distribution programs should have clear sustainability plan on varietal supply, example on NSIC RC 160. To close this presentation, so what can we learn in the varietal scaling of NSIC RC 160? Just 4 key points. First, excellent eating quality, I guess this is for breeders, is key. If you look at 160, it's been out-yielded. It's not the best when it comes to pest resistance or disease resistance. And there are already competitors, there are imported competitors, but people are looking for it because of its excellent eating quality. I guess it's a good guide for breeders. Example here is the case of Jasmati rice in Thailand, documented in the 1990s. Jasmati, of course, is a kind of confuses the market because they have this world popular jasmine rice. So what the Thai authorities did was to put up some tighter restrictions on intellectual property to protect their, their flag carrier when it comes to rice, the jasmine rice. And you know what? Excellent eating quality. My colleagues and I, Grace Nidoy and Donna Corpus, we published this in 2020. We documented the issue of the weevil-infested rice in the Philippines in 2018. The rice that we imported from Vietnam and Thailand were infested with weevils. And the issue, it was is a DevCom kind of thing. We do content analysis of news stories. The issue ran for 21 days. And yet on the 7th day, Secretary Piñol, and I guess it was Secretary Duque of DOH, they ate a sample of rice from the ones that we imported from Vietnam and Thailand to appease the public that it's okay, you just need to wash it. It's not like you're gonna die if you eat it. But the issue dragged on for the next 14 days. And why is that so? Filipinos could not accept that their most precious staple was infested with weevils. So that's social identity. Social identity. We cannot, it doesn't matter if we don't have ulam, but the rice has to be world class. It has to be delicious, it has to be soft, and it has to be shiny white. We also need to talk about and understand market peculiarities. Why is it that Luzon and Mindanao are kind of okay, and they highly prefer NSIC RC 160, but the Visayas market is looking for something else? So we need to properly understand that. Volume requirements are important to meet market demand. Example, those high-end restaurants, they're into it. They are, they can buy. What's the price? We're gonna buy it. We're gonna pay for it. But the volume is not there. So it's kind of, you miss the selling point at some point. And in Thailand, what they do is they have some contract growing. They contract out farmers that you must plant, jasmine rice. So they're able to supply the demand of the rest of the world for jasmine rice to kind of protect, again, the flag carrier. Investing in research to further improve high-performing varieties. The example is the Koshihikari variety in Japan, developed in 1956, and yet it remains to be among Japan's top rice varieties. So it is a Japonica, the first Japonica rice variety whose whole genome has been sequenced. So they've invested so much in that variety. So they also have this brand. If it's best rice variety for Japan, is Koshihikari. Koshihikari. So rice is a status symbol. That's what we're trying to say in this research in the Philippines. It doesn't matter if the viand is not good, but rice has to be world-class. In closing, I guess what I have to say is that we want to emphasize, the voice of the social sciences. When we talk about adoption studies, uptake studies, we've heard so much from, looking at it from return on investment and stuff, and they're not bad. But what we're saying is there's so much wisdom in trying to look at the actors in the system. You see here, if the actors are in a tug of war of interest, and because of the tug of war of interest, we're not able to optimize the uptake, the wider uptake of NSIC RC160. Uptake of any technology, any agricultural technology for that matter, is not linear. It is complex, and it requires this level of looking at the issue for us to unpack how to better the wider uptake of the technologies in question. Thank you.
Okay, also, thank you very much, Dr. Jaime, for an engaging and informative and educational presentation. As a recap, Dr. Jaime shared that the RC160 rice variety has achieved a marked level of success. Nakita natin kanina, we've seen it earlier na masarap siya. It's been widely adopted and used by most of the Filipinos. Given its inherent qualities that fit the taste of the Filipino rice consumers. So despite the proliferation of hundreds of other varieties, newer, higher yielding varieties equipped with better resistance to biotic and abiotic stresses, RC160 has remained in the market and presents itself to be the gold standard when it comes to preferences relating to grain qualities. Okay, once again, thank you, sir, for a highly informative talk. And with that, we now open the floor for our audience comments, insights, and questions. Please use the microphone located along the aisle. Kindly introduce yourself and the organization you represent or affiliated with. For the first two persons to ask the questions, we have RC160, a happy rice from Dr. Jaime, galing pa sa Maligaya, Barangay Maligaya. Okay? Okay.
Hey.
Okay. And we have the second one.
Marahil na hapon, Jaime.
Marahil na hapon.
Babayan ko to sa Jaime. But I'm Carlito Baligbing and I work for ERI. Yung tanong ko actually is about how is this variety that is being marketed, being traced, if it's really pure in its sense, as it is really pure 160, once it's already milled and sold by traders, especially in the market. Because I myself, I really like 160. In fact, I don't know really if it's really pure 160 when I buy it from the market in Nueva Ecija. But looking at your data on the number of or amount of seeds being sold by PhilRice, I know you have this way of tracing that it's really pure 160.
Because we planted it.
Yes. You have that kind of system to really trace it. But there's a tug of war of interest that you mentioned among the traders and the farmers and the seed growers. And usually the traders, they always wanted to have their own profit also.
Correct. Yeah.
And we are aware that some traders, they used to mix varieties.
Definitely, yeah.
So my question is, how do we also make sure that the variety that these traders are selling in the market are the pure 160 variety?
Correct. Thank you. I think that's a Okay, that's the first recommendation from this research, for us to have that mechanism for varietal integrity. Because once it's in the market, it's out there. It's common practice, really. Like in this research, we've documented that some stakeholders allude that probably NSIC RC160 is in the Dinorado package, but we could not know for sure unless we do some DNA tests and stuff, which you can do. But it's kind of cumbersome to do that, of course, and with all the vulnerable rices in the market. That's the first recommendation. Thailand was able to do that for their jasmine rice. They offer intellectual property. They call it geographic indication. It's a field that's being pursued now in a number of. For instance, you're in France, Champagne, right? Champagne. France is doing that to ensure that purity of the product, consistency, and stuff. We don't have that yet at some point in the Philippines, but it is doable. It is doable. But once it's in the market, it's always just short grain, long grain. Short grain, long grain. Yeah.
Okay, so one from our audience at the back.
Hi, good afternoon, Dr. Jaime. I'm Carla Dolores from SEARCA. So my question would be, you mentioned earlier the insufficient supply of NSIC RC160 despite its qualities. So my question will be focusing on policy. So what barriers and incentives affect the uptake of NSIC RC or Rice 160 variety among Filipino farmers? Because my stand is with the farmers, and most of the time the farmers weigh the risk and cost against this the potential and benefits of this rice variety for them to adopt to the variety itself.
Sorry, Carla, I don't think I got that right. Would you mind repeating it or rephrasing it, for instance?
All right.
Barriers? Yeah.
Yes. So my question would be focusing on policy.
Okay.
So what barriers and incentives affect the uptake of NSIC RC160 rice variety among Filipino farmers? So,
okay. Yeah, sure. I can respond to that. So currently now in the Philippines, what happens with farmers is that seeds are distributed free of charge in RCEP identified provinces, right? So not all provinces are RCEP covered. I don't know now. I think in wave 2, I'm not sure if all provinces will be covered, but in the previous phase, it's not all provinces are covered. So if it's an RCEP province, then they receive the seeds free of charge. What they do, but of course there's a limit, like 1 to 2 bags per hectare, etc. But the bottom line is farmers receive free seeds. So what they do is there are some, like for instance, province A will have top 5, or region A will have top 5 varieties. So there is a chance that another region will not have NSIC RC160 in their top 5. So if a farmer there wants, for instance, 160, then he or she has to source that out elsewhere. So the farmer needs to. There are outlets where 160 can be bought, but versus receiving it free of charge, there's always that, libre na ito, kunin ko na. So yeah. So, but you know what, Carla? I think what I have to highlight here is the fact that because of that social identity thing, they insist. And many farmers, one of the findings here is that they will plant 222 for yield because it really gives them good sum of money because of the yield, but a small portion of the lot will be devoted for 160 to ensure that their family, the household, will be eating 160 because it's malambot, it's masarap. Yeah.
thank you, Dr. Jaime. So you're saying that the barrier would be your answer to the barrier. For example, the supply would be they will be getting supplies from the other region.
At some point, yeah,
yes.
at some point. And, for instance, there are buyers, for instance, from PhilRice, came all the way from Bicol and stuff. good for them that they, you probably, you have the money, right, to travel from Bicol to Nueva Ecija to do that.
Yes, yes. My stand would be with the farmers because I've worked in agricultural industry before, and the farmers always have their stand would be they have low income, so there will be financial constraints, something like that, and the adoption processes would be based on incentive. Like if they could get high yield, like you've mentioned earlier, the high yield as well.
I guess the incentive here for 160, it's premium price. It's the price is 2 peso higher than your regular rice variety. So at some point, it's usually the case that it's a delicate balancing act for farmers. For instance, between 222 and 160. Because 222 is kind of the usual price, but 160 is 2 peso higher. But 222 will try to catch up because of excellent yield. But 160 might also be there, but still 222 will still give you more money. So yeah, so it's kind of, it's a toss. It's a toss. And that's the reason, just to segue a bit to DevCom, it's a game of communicators now. For farmers to, and I'm happy that there are development communicators in the audience. Hi, Elda and Zoe. I didn't get your name up. But anyway, my point is, it's a game of communicators. Why? Because we need to kind of influence the way farmers make decisions. We need to make them realize the consequences of their own decisions, and we need to help them make wise decisions. And you know what? Like I said, I'm working. I'll be 20 years in PhilRice, and farmers are some of the smartest people I've known in my whole life. But it's a case that strategic decisions. I think that's one of those things that we're kind of pushing for when we talk of, for instance, as additional roles for agricultural extension workers. Because of this, what I tried to show in the presentation is to show the complexity of the process. It's hardly linear. It's hardly linear. Like you fix a nuts and bolt here, everything is okay. It's not like that. I was like, you fix the issue of the millers, and then the consumers will say, hey, we're not done yet, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm happy to talk more. I'm happy to talk more. Thanks. Later.
Okay, so we have. We're gonna take one question from the Facebook. How does RC160 fit into the Philippines' national rice self-sufficiency goals, and what are the risks of relying on a limited number of varieties?
I hope I did not communicate. I hope I did not put across that I want the whole country to plant just 160. I hope that's not the message that I want to convey. The message that I want to convey is for us to kind of, my bias, of course, and hopefully the bias of my co-authors, to kind of protect varieties that are performing really well. And 160 is one of them. For instance, what Thailand did with their jasmine rice, I'm pretty sure there are already good Thai varieties that might have out-yielded jasmine rice, and probably when it comes to pest and resistance as well, I'm pretty sure may mga nakatalo na rin sa jasmine rice, but they are protecting that because it's a flag carrier at some point. So it's not the aim to solely rely on 160. In meeting rice self-sufficiency targets, of course, it's in the aim of the government to make farmers happy. And if the price is okay, the farmers are happy, right? It's all about, how to say, it's about, quality of life. So if the prices are okay, they can afford this and that. And that's also within the purview of the government to ensure that these things are realized. And NSIC RC 160 is pretty much poised to respond to that.
Okay, thank you very much. Question from our audience. Okay.
And then the lady at the back, raise her hand. Probably can come after him.
Pleasant afternoon, Dr. Jaime. I'm Gabriel Carlos Moreno. You can call me Gab. I'm an undergraduate student currently studying agricultural and applied economics at DAISM. So before I begin with my question, I'd like to commend your very enlightening presentation, because understanding the dynamics between farmers and also consumers, particularly in a variety that is very technical for consumers is very enlightening in terms of your participatory research. You mentioned that there are what we call facilitating conditions that affects and also needs for this technology to be widely adopted. And as you mentioned, there is a tug of war problem or what we say phenomenon between the stakeholders of this technology. And it's very evident with the policies that the government are currently executing when it comes to price ceilings, price floors. Who does the government want to prioritize, the consumers or the farmers, the producers? So does the producers need to have a higher profitability, higher yield? Does the consumers like to have a cheaper rice and also a much more flavorful rice that is quite apparent in other countries like Japan for koshikari and other varieties for their onigiris, for Thailand for their jasmine rice. And there's also studies where our indigenous peoples in Benguet prefer their heirloom varieties because it's much easier to harvest. My question is a two-way inquiry. What should the government do for the producers and what we as the consumers of the rice could do in order for the uptake and the adoption of RC 160 to be consistent and also to be sustainable in the long run?
Thank you, Gab. Look like my nephew, so I'm pretty old. I think there's no easy answer to that. In presenting those tug of war, I think any policy, I think I should premise my answer by saying that any policy will always have a tug of war of interest, right? Like, what I'm trying to say here is that there has to be an orchestrator. They need to sit down. They need to sit down because now, if you ask me, what should the government do with farmers? I feel like, all right, the government will probably respond, but another sector will be unhappy. And what I try to show you is that it's really a delicate balancing act, a balancing act. In the past, there was SeedNet. There's Seed Network. I'm not sure if they're trying to revive that. I think there are talks that it's unofficial. Don't quote me for it. Don't quote me about it. But I think they're kind of reviving it. But if that gets revived, it might open doors of opportunities for these issues to be properly addressed. For instance, you know what? The millers, the quote there, it's kind of powerful. It's in the paper. The traders kind of feel like, so you're referred to as the hoarders, the cartels, and yet we also deliver. And yet now, when it comes to provision of assistance, we're not included. So these things need to be properly addressed. So the short answer to your question is they need to sit down to unpack these issues and lay their cards on the table and see the direction from there. The paper unfortunately cannot offer very prescriptive, that's not the aim of any social research. Social research needs to unpack the issues so those issues can be addressed when the stakeholders are there. So I'm pretty sure in your classes you talk about multiplicity paradigm. I'm thinking along that line.
All right. Thank you very much for your response, Dr. Jaime. Appreciate it.
Okay, the lady at the back.
Hello,
Hey,
Dr. Jaime. I'm happy to see you here. My name is Zoe. I'm a graduate student from Development Communication. So my question here is, I'm interested in your experience of, going through these areas of research, and perhaps you have certain assumptions about, who these actors are. But my curiosity is in asking first, were there actors that you didn't know had the direct or indirect impact on the uptake of this certain rice variety? And secondly, tapping from your wisdom and experience, do you think there should be actors that we should involve to better understand, the uptake of NSIC RC 160? Thank you.
Oh, that's very wise. That's PhD-worthy question. I would have guessed that there are stakeholders, actors that we have not tapped, but that would form part of the limitation of the study. The limitation of the study is that it took off from the innovations mapping, So the innovations mapping, that's where the stakeholders came up, and we followed through them. So you snowballed concepts, research participants, and stuff. There would probably be more. In fact, as they say, if you continue to search, you will find more. But the chance is high, but that's research philosophy, right? The aim of any research is to peak on what is out there. And I think what we've done so far is to kind of give you a bird's eye view of the innovations ecosystem concerning rice varieties with 160 as the case study. There will be more for sure if we continue to ask. We did not, for instance, ask exporters to the Philippines. That's a limitation. We didn't have money to do that, but we could have done Zoom. Hey, but we did not think of that. Yeah. So there would be more for sure. Thanks. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes. Okay. Okay, Sir Jenny. Then we have yes, ma'am, at the back.
Again, nice to see you here. And after a decade, so I've seen your book. I was there as well. My question is, because as you said, you surfaced a lot of the issues of conflicts. I'm curious if somehow you're exploring as a future study in terms of the power, the element of power and influence among those different stakeholders, because that might also influence the uptake of any technology, or let's say NSIC.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely, Sir Ginny. Power is like the currency of social science people. Power relations. Who is more powerful? Who should be listened to, and why? It's always the case. Not for this study, Sir Ginny. For the microtiller study, for instance, it's but it's always good. I think. Well, anyway, for the microtiller study, that was developed it's a gender-friendly machine. Kalasable siya. Nakakalas. Para sa Cordillera Administrative Region. And yet when we ask, women, why are you not using it? Or it's really made for you. They will tell us that because the concept of using a machine is not pambabae. So the perception, power, the scholar is Andrea Nightingale. She's a feminist scholar, and her argument is that we participate in our own subjectivity, and that sits in the realm of power relations. But it's a totally different ballgame. I'm happy to discuss in the future, Sir Ginny. The lady at the back, yep. Here you go.
Good afternoon po. I'm Des Kabagtepov. I'm an undergraduate first year po ako from BS Development Communication. And you mentioned earlier po that there's a somewhat long-standing tug-of-war between our stakeholders. And personally, I think po na it's kind of a waste or lost opportunity kasi we can't fully optimize or fully take advantage yung uptake or potential ng 160 due to the conflict between actors. So my question po is it really that inevitable na magkaroon ng conflict between them? And I'm curious if there were any previously enacted policies that weren't successfully carried out, or maybe are there any alternative approaches that can be done where we would not need to cut off any of our stakeholders or our actors po? Ayun lang.
I think the short answer is conflict is inevitable in any democracy. It's inevitable. I guess what we should just keep doing is to sit down and see things from there. And the good thing about, for instance, here in this Where Are Technologies study series, we call it this, Dr. Tanz is here, the sociological voice is being put front and center. We need to listen to voices. Kasi, like, if we don't listen to voices, it will just it will just be at the background, and issues that are not addressed will just be there. We'll just keep pestering the whole system. So it's not about cutting off or what. It's not just like Gab's question. I guess the bigger answer is for these stakeholders to sit down and set the direction from there. There will always be I would like to talk of synergy as opposed to compromise amongst these stakeholders. I'm pretty sure they can find their way out, their way forward, rather, to address the system. You know what? Here in this study, it's just 160 is just a case study, but it will apply to all rice varieties because they will be supported by the same innovations ecosystem. So I actually presented this to our plant breeding group in PhilRice, and they're very happy. I feel like, you know, I feel like it was a case like someone's just waiting to say what I said. Someone wanted to say what I said, but they could not say it. Someone has to say it. Oh, it has to be me, so I'm saying it now. So that there are the issues. And that's the power as well of communicators, if you like. You're able to, you know, the communication there is the facilitation. Usually when we talk of communication, media comm and stuff, but it's the facilitation. It's the creation of viable communication processes. That's our role in the innovations ecosystem.
Yes po. So, ang follow-up question lang po. Yung sa pagfa-facilitate po, you've mentioned na kailangan po natin upuan po ito at gumawa po talaga tayo ng viable and tangible na solusyon para dito. Yung question ko lang po kanina, meron na po bang nakagawa nito previously?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we've just done it through the innovations mapping. Innovations mapping is a first step. The first step to problem resolution is problem identification. So, you know, usually ginagawa din to sa mga climate change issues. And you might be this illusion that there is that silver bullet, silver lining, so to speak, one single answer. No, it's not like that. It's about coming up with a solution that might work for the stakeholders. But it's not always the best solution. So, you know, it's the best solution. It's a solution. I even don't use the best solution because it's about coming up with solutions that might apply in proper contexts. Yeah, it's like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much po.
Okay, so thank you very much. That wraps up our open forum. Let us all give Dr. Jaime a big round of applause. For the awarding of the certificate of appreciation and token of gratitude to our esteemed guest speaker, may I kindly invite Dr. Rico Ancog, Deputy Director for Administration. Allow me to read the citation on the certificate. The Southeast Asian Regional Center for Graduate Study and Research in Agriculture awards the Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Jaime A. Manalo. For sharing his expertise as speaker during the Agriculture and Development Seminar Series titled Understanding the Uptake of NSIC 160 Rice Variety in the Philippines, held on 25 February 2026 at the SEARCA headquarters, UPLB Campus College, Los Baños, Laguna, Philippines. Signed by Dr. Mercedita Isombilia, SEARCA Center Director. Thank you very much, sir. Now to our dear seminar attendees and guests, we would like to know your insights and takeaways from this seminar. You may share this through our feedback form by accessing the link or the QR code flashed on the screen. You may also take a photo of this slide and fill out the form after the seminar. Just a kind reminder, the form remains open until 5 p.m. this afternoon today. To our attendees joining us via SEARCA's Facebook page, thank you very much for tuning in and participating in our seminar. Join us again in our future learning events. At this time, we would like to invite everyone for a group photo with our resource speaker. To ensure we are all in the frame, we may request, I think, those at the back to please fill the vacant seats in front. We will be taking the photo while you are seated. So our speaker will be sitting here in front. We'll be requesting him to sit here. And for those at the back, please occupy the vacant seats here in front so that you will be taken in the frame. Okay, so those at the back, you can occupy the aisle here. And those at the sides, please occupy the vacant aisle here. And then we would like to ask Dr. Jaime to please stand dito na lang po. Sige dito. Kayo. Sige, I think everyone can stand. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us. Follow our Facebook page for updates on our upcoming events. We have prepared a refreshment at the lobby. So please enjoy our simple refreshment. See you again.
Come, let's build the center that we'd like to be. A place where you and me can work in harmony. Where everyone is proud to serve with dignity. Come, let's make this dream a reality. Fill our hearts and minds with a vision. Let our words below our mission. Leave our values on excellence and work, commitment and unity. Come share the stream for the senior region, extend it to the world throughout generation. Fill our hearts and minds with a vision. Side by side, we stand for one mission. Leave our values on excellence and work, commitment and unity. Let's show the world we can. With God goes in hand, we will grow together.